Frizzle folks, this is my brother, and we're here today to review Animorphs number 28. I think you've hit the nail on the head of this book is fun because, in large part, it's an Axe book.
Yes.
The narrator is Aximili, and he's a treat to read anything from.
Yeah, she is.
Why do you like Axe books?
Well, his narrative is very funny, and then it's also because you're like, wow, this technology is stupid.
But I feel like my least favorite part of this book is how it feels like, in the end of the book, it doesn't matter to the grander series of Animorphs. Like, you could just take it out and kind of lose nothing.
Yeah.
In this book, the Animorphs discover that the Yeerks are up to something, again, which is experimenting on chimps and maybe having something to do with a meat processing slaughterhouse plant. And so they go to investigate. They sneak in first as chimps, figure out that the Yeerks are doing some sort of mind control, free will taking away kind of situation, experiments.
Drug making.
Drugs, etc. Whatever. But in the end, they find out that the Yeerks have been wholly unsuccessful at making a mind control drug because it's just not possible. So part of this book that really struck me as I was reading this book is all of the references, especially to TV. Because Axe gets a TV and gets completely obsessed with it in this book. I did not understand at least half of the references that they were making. When the book would reference something like The Brady Bunch or Young and Restless, which are shows that I've heard of, but also haven't ever seen and don't really understand the reference very well, I feel like it just makes me understand Axe a little less in a lot of ways. And I wish that they could, if these books or when these books are ever reprinted, I would love for them to take all the social references and then replace them with modern ones that people can understand a little better. What do you think about that?
That would definitely help.
I suppose if they started updating all the references, but then the books still take place in the 90s, pre-cell phones, it could work.
It couldn't really make sense. Maybe you could see more 1990 shows. More that people would actually get, like Simpsons, which they did do once.
Yeah, they did reference The Simpsons in this book, didn't they? That was a reference I got,
Yeah, I got that too.
I'm at least half a generation too young to understand all the references in these books. That makes you a full generation too young to understand all the references in these books. Hard to understand. Sometimes they make a reference about The Simpsons or Batman. I'm that is an eternal reference. We got it. One of the things that I find completely hilarious about the Animorphs series, and especially about this book, is the way that the Yeerks are so incompetent because Visser 3 is a bad leader. In this book, the scientist Yeerks are tasked with making a drug that will brainwash people, and then they can't do it. But instead of just telling Visser 3, hey, we can't do it, maybe, have us make something more useful, they lie and tell Visser 3, no, everything's great, 100% effective, yes, it's good. Because they don't want, their hands chopped off if they fail, which is something Visser 3 is in the habit of doing, as we see in this book. Definitely, if Visser 3 was, a nicer boss that people weren't so afraid of, the Yeerks might have just, won the entire series.
Yeah, they might have, actually.
But this is a thing that happens again and again, that because Visser 3 is just such a terrible, terrible leader, the Yeerks are completely ineffective in many areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, the very end of this book has them going to the food court and eating burgers right after their horrifying slaughterhouse adventure where there was kind of the vibe that they might not want to eat burgers anymore after seeing all that. This is both a pro for the book and a con for the book.
Yeah.
Because it's a con for the book, because at the end of the book, it's they haven't learned any lessons. Except, I guess, to believe more in the power of humanity not being mindless slaves. But, it just feels at the end of the book when they're all I guess we're gonna eat burgers anyway, it does feel a little cheap, oh, so this book didn't have any consequences. But then on the other hand, I kind of really like the ending that it feels so positive. There's so many books in this series where the Animorphs have serious trauma, right? Just look at any book where they morph a social insect.
The ants.
The ants, bad news. And they are having nightmares about ants and bringing up ants and deciding never to morph ants again for books to come. That is a thing that it has impacted the series, which is a good storytelling tactic. But it also makes me feel for these Animorphs. Like, they're always going through all these traumatic experiences and having to, like, recalibrate and change. And then in this one book, they're able to say, like, no to the face of trauma and just decide to move on. Yeah, especially Axe, who almost got slaughtered as Bull. Anyway, happy ending for the Animorphs.
Happy ending. Merch blog time! You can get this shirt.
And many others on my store.
Yeah, many others.
I just love designing t-shirts. I actually designed this shirt like once upon a time too. I don't know. This isn't on my store yet, but I guess it probably should be. So, if you are interested in buying fun merch shirts and other items, head on over to my Etsy store. There's a link in the description of this video.
Thanks for watching. Comment with a cow emoji so that you can signify that you made it to the end.
Go you!
Woo!